Hello and welcome everyone to our Sunday edition of This Is Ibrox podcast. I'm joined here tonight by my good friend JB and a strange but familiar face in Tommy Cunningham. I'll go to you first, Tommy. How are you feeling today? Slightly lighter?
Slightly lighter, yeah. A bit colder as well, Hef. It's very cold on the old face. I didn't realise that. I was bored on Saturday, and I thought, what can I? And then I thought it's getting too long, and I couldn't be bored trimming it, so I just took it off.
That's a nice youthful look, Tommy. Suits you, son.
Yeah, thank you.
What about yourself, JB? How are you doing this Sunday evening?
Yeah, I'm all good. I think, like most Rangers fans, we're still at the top of the roller coaster, aren't we? I think everything's going really well, and really enjoyed Friday night, which I know we're going to get into. And long may it continue. Rangers happy weekends.
Absolutely. I think we've become accustomed to the idea of routine wins again, boys. I don't know if I can quite get to that point yet where we're feeling easy about going into games, but we're starting to feel a nice comfort when you're going to watch Rangers, which is a nice position to be in. Just for those of you that are watching live or listening, please make sure that you comment and make sure that you're giving suggestions about who you might want to see in the Scottish Cup, what players you're looking to see. We're constantly keeping an eye on the comments, so we'll try and bring them up throughout the feed. And as I said, make sure that we're trying to make this as engaging as possible, engaging with the fans and stuff. So, yeah.
Just to address the first comment, Hef, the draw hasn't been made yet, just for this comment.
Yeah, that's a good point. Mark, the Scottish Cup draw, I actually thought there's still one game to go, so it probably would have been done on Tuesday, but because the game was live on the TV tonight, they're doing it after tonight's game, which is just finished. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on the Twitter feed. Obviously, I can't be watching the game, but I'll be keeping an eye on the Twitter feed. So if that comes up during, I'll make sure and let everyone know. So there's absolutely no reason to come off. Stay on and watch us for as long as you can. You'll get in-depth analysis of who we've got, unless it's somebody rotten, in which case we'll just mention it and then move on swiftly. And in that vein, I'll go to JB first with this talking point that we're going to cover. How did you feel on Friday night? I know you said that you enjoyed the game, but when you saw that starting 11, albeit we know that it's a Friday night Scottish Cup game against a lower opposition, but what did you think of the starting lineup, JB, when it came out?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. All of a sudden, I wasn't looking forward to it. In the fact that I think, obviously, because we've been on such a high, it was almost the case of you see that team and you go, "Ooh, wait there." But what you got to remember is this team it's a different animal in terms of the way it's being coached. If that was a Russell Martin team going out against an Annan or a lower league opposition, then I probably wouldn't have fancied it at all. But given the fact that you could see the players were doing a lot of the same stuff, the structure was there. We didn't give up that many big chances. I know they come out of the blocks flying. But in terms of the starting 11 itself, it was I dare say it was kind of good just to really get some rest in the lads. I think sometimes it's almost a case of it's game after game after game after game. We're about to go back into the European fixture list as well with Porto and Ludogorets coming up in the coming weeks. So I think for me it was important that it was nothing silly. Do you know what I mean? So in terms of we're able to give Butland a rest, Suter a rest, Fernandez, Raskin, Moore, Diomandi, Tav. We've asked a lot of these guys to go to the well quite a lot over the last few weeks under high pressure circumstances as well. So just to give them a little blow on Friday was quite refreshing, which was good. But as you say, once the 11 come out, I don't think Rangers Twitter or certainly our WhatsApp group wasn't enthralled with the information. But for me, it was kind of just a little bit of a stark reminder that there probably is still a little bit of work to do with this squad in terms of improvements. And then there was also a reminder for me that we obviously had the quality that if things weren't going well, there was options there on the bench as well. So yeah, all in all, no major concerns, and obviously we'll walk through the game a wee bit more detail. But the big win for me was to come out the game with no injuries, and that was what I wanted before the game. Comfortable win, and that's what we got.
Yeah, can't argue with that. Me and Ian Mitchell were covering the game for This Is Ibrox we did our podcast straight after the game, but there was a moment early on when me and Ian went into the media room where Mr. Kavanagh came in to the media room and walked through and introduced himself. Not that he had to introduce himself, but made himself acquainted with people that were there. And it was so refreshing to see a chairman come in and actually know, like he knew some of the other lads who cover Rangers, whether it be fan media, and he knew a lot in the mainstream media, and he was quite open and happy to talk, and he introduced himself to the Annan chairman, and it just seems like a really, really down-to-earth guy, and it was just a really nice position to be in, because obviously there's a lot of people that watch the podcast and listen to the podcast, and that's one of the privileges that you get, is to get to meet these people and be in the same room as these guys. So that was a really nice thing. Tommy, I'll go through just now some kind of key facts about the game. So we had a Miovski hat-trick. We saw Asgard score a 30, potentially 35-yard free kick straight into the top bin. And we saw Kieran Dowell score. It was Liam Kelly's second start of the season, Clinton and Ciala's first start of the season, Joe Rothwell's first start since October, and Dowell hasn't started a game since August. With that in mind, we did see the introduction of Zebedee Lawson and Tochi Chukwuani. Did that excite you, Tommy, to see some new players being bled into the team?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've needed that, Hef, haven't we? And obviously, but probably no disrespect to Annan, but probably it's a game where we could have we did get away with it, having kind of Dowell and Rothwell there, guys that we've not really seen in a long time as well. It was good for Miovski to get a hat-trick, it would be good for his confidence as well. Funnily enough, and I was actually looking at that and I was thinking to myself, when was the last time we scored a hat-trick? And it was actually last year at the same round of the Scottish Cup, but we've only scored something like 5 hat-tricks or something since 2019. It's becoming quite rare for a Rangers player to score a hat-trick, really, and you wouldn't really think that. So yeah, it was good. I thought we took a wee bit of time to settle into the game, and I probably got a little bit of PTSD from Queen's Park. But once we got that first goal, I think from there it was a really comfortable night, really, to be honest. And it was like JB was saying earlier, if things did go wrong, we always had that kind of power on the bench to overturn the game anyway. So it was a pretty comfortable evening. It was a really enjoyable watch as well.
Yeah, no, I thought the first half probably wasn't a great. I didn't think it was a great spectacle. I thought and overall we got the business done, and that's all that really matters. But essentially, it wasn't a great watch. But again, you're going to watch Rangers versus Annan Athletic. It was never going to be pretty. I was just going to bring up there just some facts about, or not some facts, but some talking points about the Scottish Cup going forward. Now, I think that any minute now the draw will be starting to get made if it's not already. But Hearts and Hibs are both out. We'll see that the draw is going to be made. These games will be on the 7th of February. JB, I was just wanting to come to you with this. We're going to be
Can we address this first, Steph? Because I can hear this as well. I can hear myself back speaking. I don't know if it's from a speaker or headphones or...
It shouldn't be mine because my headphones are in. Is it better now?
Yeah, that's better now. Yeah, I can't hear myself back now. That's fine.
Sorry, guys. Potentially it was my headphones hadn't been synced up, but I thought they were. Yeah. So what I was going to say there was Hearts and Hibs are now both out of the Scottish Cup after some shock exits. The draw is going to be made, and the game's going to be played on the 7th of February. And I suppose that we're going to be in a position now, JB, that we're going to be playing 2 games a week right up until March. And what I was just going to ask you was, what is it that you want to see out of this next block of fixtures?
Maximum points. That's it. There's your answer. Now, I think for me, it's almost a case of it's got to be. We've got to be going into every game thinking, right, what do we need to do here? Where's the I can see the draws actually being done, so I've got one eye on the notifications coming in. I think for me, certainly from a league perspective, we've just got to keep that momentum going. The European games that are coming up, so your Ludogorets and Porto, obviously we can only play the players that are eligible to play. I don't know whether that means anything in terms of us being able to kind of bring any additional players in if we've got any players on long-term injuries. I don't know if that deadline does pass for the last 2 game weeks. So, I mean, Connor Barron's going to miss the last 2 game weeks. Can we bring somebody else into the squad? I don't really know the legalities that sit behind that. But I think in terms of a European perspective, there's that. The Scottish Cup, whoever we get, well, naturally we're going to be looking for wins. I was looking through the fixtures in terms of that next block. Home games against Dundee, Kilmarnock, Hearts, Celtic, Aberdeen and Dundee United. And then away games to Easter Road, Motherwell, Livingston, St Mirren and Falkirk. So again, we've obviously got through Easter Road once already this season. We've been to Parkhead, we've been to Tynecastle, albeit a couple of them we would like to see a few better. Well, certainly Tynecastle want to see a better performance. I think the Motherwell one is one to really keep an eye on in a few weeks' time as we go into February. But I think with the team the way that they're playing at the moment, I think we've got to be taking confidence into that and then seeing where we go and go from there.
Yeah, the Motherwell one doesn't sit great with me either, only because of that reason of what do you do in Europe? You know, do you start to rest players? Do you go for it? I know someone...
We got Stranraer off Queen's Park.
Home or away?
It's at Ibrox.
I mean, there's the hot and cold balls are out again.
There's part of me from a personal point of view that's saying I don't need to see another payment come out my continuous credit card scheme, but the other part of me from a Rangers mindset is thinking that should be another easy fixture that takes care of itself.
Said that last year.
Well, I think earlier on in the season when we played Alloa, 4-2, that certainly wasn't an easy game. So none of these games you are taken for granted, but you do still have the belief that you're going into a game that you could look to not rest players because you're saying that they're not necessarily a strong enough team, but to the level that you're playing Joe Rothwell and Dowell and Matondo. But there could be an opportunity there for a bit of rotation, and given the fact that Hibs and Hearts are both going to be out of the cup, it then means that's another thing that they don't have to focus on. So when we've got that game on the 7th of February, they'll have a chance to rest some players. And I don't know, there's things like that don't really sit right with me. It just makes me feel a bit uneasy. So we've, like JB spoke about there, we've got Rangers v Ludogorets on Thursday, Rangers v Dundee on Sunday, and Porto versus Rangers on the 29th. Tommy, of these 3 games that we've got coming up, which of those do you feel is of significance?
Well, obviously the Dundee at home game is good because that's the focus now, isn't it? I don't even think we can qualify anymore, and I think if we could qualify, it would have to be a real miracle now to get through the Europa League. So I think we can consider that pretty much a dead competition. I think now we're playing for really coefficient points. Any prize money that we can get in from a draw or a win. A lot of people saying rotation for that game would be absolutely fine. We've got to realise that we've got you've got obviously the squad rota, the quota that you've got to have as well. So there's got to be rotation within that in terms of who's eligible to play. We can't obviously just throw in anybody; they've got to be eligible. So yeah, I would honestly not be too bothered by a weak team on Thursday. And again, maybe we've seen Raskin getting another rest, and then going to Dundee fresh. We've got to realise we drew with Dundee at home earlier on this season, albeit under Russell Martin. So I think now it's just about putting it right, isn't it? We've got a better manager now, we've got a better squad, we're in a better position. Ibrox isn't as toxic as what it was that day either. So that game for me is the important one. Any league game now and Scottish Cup game now is the important. So I say European kind of games are kind of dead now, really, effectively.
I agree with you there, Tommy. It's very hard to disagree because there's two ways of looking at it, and I suppose one of the main things that you would want to consider is the fact that there's obviously prize money at stake for winning these games in the Europa League, and it's not to be scoffed at because the money that's there is certainly going to help the club going forward. is that worth more than the money that you make by resting players and potentially going on and winning a league? That's what you kind of need to throw up at this point. And for me, I agree with you, Tommy. I would focus solely on the league. The one thing I would point out is that Porto play Victoria Pilsen on Thursday. Now, should they win that game, they'll be in the top 8, or sorry, the top section pretty comfortably by that point, which means then that by the time that we go to play them away, that they might be in a position where they're looking to rest players too. So with that in mind,
it's a glorified friendly at that point, isn't it?
well, I mean, it's weird because the makeup of the Europa League was supposed to be to make it more competitive till the end and to do away with these home and away fixtures, because it would mean then that there was more competition across the board and you wouldn't have the chance to see what tactics you're up against and then defend against it and basically play like a low block in the last couple of games to get these draws against teams that you're familiar with. So with that in mind, you're going into Porto potentially with Porto already through, us already out, and we can't be the only teams in that position. So I suppose you're right, it's a glorified friendly, and I saw in the comments there that someone's saying play the youth team. The problem with that is that there isn't an opportunity always to play some of these players in the European games, and the reason for that is because they're not registered to play with the squad. And even I believe that Lyle Cameron was part of the Europa League squad. Now, if he's out of that, does that mean that we get a place back? That's something that we'd need to try and figure out. I don't know how that works.
I think I allowed one change after January for the last 2 games. I might be wrong on that. That's possibly a football manager thing. I don't know. I don't know if that's a thing in real life, but yeah, it could possibly be you're allowed a change.
I would assume that was something that was implemented, especially because with the introduction of the fixtures, it's taken those games beyond January. So therefore, they should include something in that, because we are not obviously the only club that has a transfer window at that time. Obviously, there will be ones that are out with it and it won't affect them. But for us, especially if, for example, Lyle Cameron's was a squad player and he wasn't someone of great importance to the squad because we didn't use him very well. I think he could have been a good asset, and I said that enough on here. But with regards to being the final edge and closing off games, I don't think he was that sort of player. However, had the rumours been true and we'd sold Nico Raskin to Besiktas or something, you would be on it, UEFA, to allow us to make a substitution and bring in another player. But I just don't know off the top of my head what the legality with that
We've
is.
potentially got like Rothwell going out as well, who's still registered. So there's other players that might leave that are registered as well.
Yeah, but there's room for change, and I suppose what we need to think about as well is if we're going into that Porto game, JB, I know that you'll be over there, and you'll be wanting to see us go for it. But if Porto are going to put out a weakened team, would you be in a position where you would like to see Rangers go for it at that chance, just whether it be to save face or whether it be to get some extra money in the bank, JB?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one to catch 22 because I'll just use an example. Say, for example, Chimiti was to have a parquet performance in Porto and goes on and scores 2 or 3 goals in a 2-0 win, 3-0 win, 2-2 draw, whatever it might be. He's catching the eye. And whether we like it or not, that's also part of the way that our transfer model's got to work. Players aren't going to be, we're not going to get bids for players because of how well they perform on the domestic scene. Do you know what I mean? So say, for example, use Chimiti as the example. If Chimiti scores 25 goals, 20 goals up at Rangers, we're probably not going to get the money back that we paid for him. He's going to have to start scoring your 27s, your 30s, your 35 goals a season in order to get more money back for him, because teams are going to go, can't do without this lad. Do you know what I mean? So in Europe is where a lot of our players are judged. You've only got to look at the exports that we've had in recent years. It's no coincidence. If your Calvin Bassies, your Joe Aribos, no one's buying them because they're playing well against St Mirren. Do you know what I mean? They're buying them because they performed on the big European stage. Joe Aribo scored in a European final. Calvin Bassey getting man of the match in a European final. So again, this is shop window for a lot of these lads as well. So as much as we'll be selfish and we'll think about Rangers first, because that's what we're here to do, but you've also got to remember that Yusuke Sama is probably a really good one of someone that he's caught the eye in Europe this year. I happen to believe his attitude on a European night is very different to an attitude domestically. And how many times have we labelled that against certain players over the last few years? But I think we'll be really well organised, really well structured. What I'd like to see in Europe, it's probably a chance for us to try different formations as opposed to potentially changing players. So do we experiment a wee bit more with the three at the back? Do we go 4-4-2? Do we try things that we maybe wouldn't try domestically as much? There's also probably contract requirements as well for certain individuals to play X amount of games. So if you think about like the likes of Mikey Moore, again, they're not sending him up here just to play against Livingston on a cold Tuesday night at Almonvale. They're sending him up here to showcase himself in big games and European games, and no bigger than the couple of games we've got coming in the coming weeks. I think certainly the next Thursday for me, I think we've got to get out of this rut of how we performed in Europe this season. Just to save face, I think Tommy touched on it there in terms of the co-efficiency points. It's really important, and if we want to continue to have these European adventures like we've been having, then we really need to make sure that we are performing on this stage. And Thursday and Porto, for me, I think we've got to approach them with going out to win. Now, don't get me wrong, if we've got a player that's carrying a knock, if we go 2-0 up, which would be absolutely delighted, then naturally we need to be getting the players on and rotating them. But I think in the main, this is the chance for the players to show how good they are against the better opposition, it's got to be said. And then also, let's say the co-efficiency points, and there's a certain thing of a couple of quid in the back pocket as well, which I'm sure powers above will be keeping an eye on. It could be the difference of us maybe bringing in one more player. Do you know what I mean? I'm just trying to, does it fall into February? No, yeah, both games are in January. So that could be the difference of us maybe bringing in one more player at the end of the window. Someone says, right, go and get 6 points in there, lads, and we can go out and pay, I don't know, a couple of million for a player. Then that could be the difference. That could be the guy that gets us the winning goal on Helicopter Sunday at the end of the season. Do you know what I mean? So I'm getting ahead of myself a bit, as you can tell, but at the end of the day, we're doing well. So if we're not going to enjoy this time, when are we going to enjoy it?
I don't think you're. I think being optimistic would be that you don't want to see a helicopter, that we want to be well out of sight by the time it gets to that. Aye. But yeah, there's a touch of optimism stroke realism there, JB, that we can all appreciate. One of the comments there had said about having a bit of respect in Europe. Tommy, how has this European campaign felt for you as a Rangers fan, looking back? Because there's some games there that ultimately you look to be winning as a Rangers team of old, and we've spoke about it on the podcast plenty and berated them when they've needed to be, and we've picked them up when they needed to be. But with respect to some of the teams that we've been beaten by, this European campaign just hasn't been good enough, has it?
No, and I think like even if we now go and get 2 wins, beating Porto away would of course be good, but I still think overall I think we'll look back and it's a poor campaign no matter what way we look at it. The disappointing thing was we played the pot 4 teams that we drew very early on and we got beat, and that was really disappointing. You know, I think it was the Genk game I was at Ibrox, and I think we were still under Russell Martin still at that point, and I just remember they battered us that game, really, to be honest. And you're thinking, Genk, come on, you know, like no disrespect to these teams, but I don't really think we had a difficult draw, really, to be honest. So yeah, I don't know. It's disappointing, but then you think, Kev, we've had so many good years in Europe, haven't we? And we've not. What I was saying to Ian at the start of the season, I was saying it would be good maybe just to have maybe a bit more of a back foot on Europe now and see us progress in the league, which should be the bread and butter. It's good if you can get both, but it's very hard to really get both, really, to be honest. So I think like I was a bit annoyed because we were doing bad in Europe, and under Martin we were also doing bad in the league. So we kind of regressed in Europe, and we didn't get the progression in the league. Now that we're getting the progression in the league, it doesn't hurt as much the kind of European run, especially at the end of the season if we do end up with a league title to show for it as well. So as long as the league's the bread and butter, I'm okay with it. Like I say, we've had many European nights to look back on and think, wow, we've really been blessed with what we've been through there. But I think this season it's just a write-off, really, isn't it? From you think of Club Bruges as well. They absolutely hammered us, really, didn't they? We had no right to even be playing that game, really. To be honest, it was just a complete mismatch. And then, like I say, under Russell Martin, kind of killed us the first few games under him as well. So we were never going to pull that back, Hef, really, to be honest, the way that it was going. But yeah, it's disappointing because of the draw that we had. I think we had a lot harder of a draw last year, and done well. And then this year, obviously, the opposite.
I think that Club Bruges game is the one that absolutely killed us all, really. I think we were all very depleted by that point. If we ever had any faith in a Russell Martin squad going forward, that was the one that players were giving up. Players weren't running back. Players were on their knees. Just there was no fight, no dig, no nothing. A stark contrast to what we see now with the players. You look at the game, even on Friday night, to switch away from the European focus, but we had players who haven't seen the light of day since autumn time, and they're just coming in fresh, and they go on and score goals, they assist. I don't think, obviously it's so difficult to say that now, but the stark difference between the Russell Martin squad, where people were just skipping by us, no fight, no dig, to what we've got just now, squad players coming in and making themselves accountable, is a really, really welcome change. And I hope that continues, because on Friday night, JB, Danny Rule was asked the question, you've obviously got 3 new players in, how many more do you want? And he had answered saying, it's very difficult to put a number on it. I'm going to come to you, JB. Put a number on it. How many would you like to see come in?
How many do I think, or how many do I want?
Well,
I think there'll be another one come in. I think there'll be another one come in. I've got a feeling we're going to try and sign another striker. Now that striker mightn't necessarily be, and we're not going to like this, unfortunately, but this mightn't be a striker that's ready for the here and now. We are being linked with a number of players. One of the guys we spoke about last week, whose name is currently escaping me, Redzik. Is it Redzik? Damir Redzik. He's a young lad. I think is he playing in Hungary, or is he Hungarian? One of the two. But he's someone that I think was heavily linked by a reputable journalist. Again, 22, so therefore you're not buying the finished product, but lots of energy, lots of legs, pace. That's one thing I would probably say we're missing within this setup. If you think about the striking options that we've got Chimiti, who's quick over the distance. Miofsky, he's more of a penalty box striker. Danilo's slower than a week in the jail. So I think we're definitely going to need an extra, I dare say, a Nacho Novo type. I know that phrase has been used a couple of times, but if we're doing Sasa Papac comparisons, then why don't we do Big Nacho? We Nacho, I should say. So I think that's probably the one player I'm missing. That's what I think. We'll see. If you're asking me what I would like, I think we could do with one more left-sided centre half, with just to give us that bit more balance. Again, depending on what's happening with Cornelius, I would have really liked to have seen a good look at Cornelius, because I actually think he would have. I liked what I've seen in the fact that he could give you the left-sided option, he could give you the left-back option as well at a push. Another centre half and another striker, but I think it might depend as well on what business gets done on the way out as well. I mean, Danny Roll did touch on the Conor Barton injury has potentially changed his mindset on what he needs to do in the window. So what does that mean? Does that mean that we bring somebody else in? Is that the reason why Rothwell hasn't left yet? Is because he's going to be the guy that we're going to use to hobble over until the end of the season, or until Barron's back. So I definitely think we need an upgrade there. We've got Bajrami back soon, the Albanian prince, so that'll be like a new signing when he comes back. Use the old cliche. yeah, they're the bits for me. But again, we've been sitting here and we've been talking about players that could go out on loan. NCR, if he goes out on loan, definitely need another left-sided centre half. If Curtis goes on loan, do we then maybe need one more? Ant-Man, what's going on with him? Cameron's gone. So again, I think the window's going to be interesting because, as I say, the amount that go out might determine the ones that come in. One thing I would say, of the ones that are going out, I'm pretty confident we're going to bring in better, because the ones that we're looking to go out are offering very little. So therefore, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And there's been another couple of transfer speculations today as well. So yeah, it's a good time to be keeping an eye on things. It does feel as if there is a plan. A lot of Scandinavian links, which I think we've spoken around a few times. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting few weeks. As I say, we'll keep an eye on everything, and if we hear of anything, then we'll make sure that we tweet it out. But Stigby Ornaby's definitely earning his money.
Aye, I was just going to say that as well, because with the talent that we've brought in, there's two Danish players that we've brought in, obviously playing in separate leagues, and obviously one of them's a full international at the senior level. The other one plays in the under-21s. But what I found dead interesting was when Tochi Chukwuani had signed, that Andreas Skov Olsen was liking the posts on Instagram as if this was already a done deal before it had came to it. Now, obviously, Andreas Skov Olsen was brought out before the game on Friday night, to everybody's surprise, and I thought that the whole week, all we heard was, it's done. We're seeing people sending photos of him, his kit up in the club shop, and photos of him sitting in Nando's having his dinner, and all these different things that you could think about. But I think the way in which he handles himself, he came into the press conference on Friday night, which was obviously embargoed until today at 12 o'clock, and his presence was unbelievable. Some of the things he came out with was, and I know that he had done a very similar interview basically, which would suggest he's very, very well media trained. But the first thing that he asked him was, why Rangers? Why did you want to come here? And his answer was, this is the biggest team in Scotland. Straight away, me and Ian looked at each other like, get in there, he gets it, you know. But I think that whoever it is that we're getting, I think you're bang on, JB. I think that idea that we're getting better than what is going. So whether it be that we do take the option to buy Andreas Skov Olsen or not, the fact that we're going to be losing Matondo and potentially bringing in a player of his quality is exactly what we need to be doing, in my opinion. If we had lost Jeffy and Yilmaz, and obviously Magoma's on loan, we've brought in Tour Rommens. That would suggest to me that hopefully he hits the ground running, and then he can be a player who's of better quality than that has left. And obviously with Tochi Chukwuani, Diomande had come out and said that he doesn't really play better or worse than another player. It's just that he brings a different dynamic to the squad. And what I was going to ask you, Tommy, was just on the squad in general. How do you feel that we are as a squad? Like how strong do you feel that we are going into a title race that obviously continues on Sunday? But how do you feel? How will you feel if this squad is the same squad that we have at the end of the transfer window going into a title race?
I think it's a tough one to answer that, because we need to see the new boys really before I'm happy with who's came in. Skov Olsen is a big signing, a really big signing. It's a signing that we were speaking about years ago. I think actually when Kent left, we were talking about Olsen maybe replacing Kent. He's very, very good, but obviously we need to see him do it first and then take it from there. I think still Hef were maybe just a little bit short, but the way that things are going and the things that Danny Rule's done with the team that he's had in the last couple of months, 3 players in there, it's only going to get better in my eyes, right? So we've just came through like kind of like a hard run there as well. I think if you look at the next 5 games and then on to maybe when we play Celtic at Ibrox, I think after that Celtic game at Ibrox, I would be able to say categorically if I think we will win the league or not. I think these kind of games will be crucial in the kind of build up to that. I think it depends on Hearts as well. It depends on if a lot of people, Ian especially, talking about how their bubble is going to burst or whatever. Who knows? It depends if Martin O'Neill can keep Celtic ticking as well. Are they going to pressure? It depends on other teams as well, I suppose. Obviously, I think we can do it, Hef, but I do think at this moment, if the January transfer window was shut tonight, I think we're still a little bit too short, really, to be honest.
I suppose it all depends on, as you said, there's a lot of differentiating factors that can happen between now and the end of the season. And I suppose that, like you said, we don't know if the Hearts bubble's going to burst. We don't know if players are going to leave Hearts, other players are going to join. We don't know what's going to happen with Celtic in terms of, are they going to strengthen? Because they obviously have quite a lot of areas of the park to strengthen, and they don't seem to be doing anything, which is brilliant for us. But in terms of where we are going forward, JB, you had mentioned the idea that when we're going into European games, it would be a good opportunity for us to try out the 3 at the back or 5 at the back, however you want to label it. With the squad that we've got just now, obviously Sterling's still out and Tav's legs are kind of slowly but surely going away from him. We've not got Cornelius. If we are, we don't know what foot Jigga's got because we've yet to see him hit it successfully with either one of those legs. So it's very difficult to assume. I don't know necessarily if trying out these formations in a game that doesn't have as much of an impact on us necessarily in terms of a league would be important. But if you were set up if you were to set up on Thursday night, how would you like us to set out with the players that we've currently got fit and able just now?
We haven't got mass amounts of options, have we? Unfortunately, I think, given the fact that we have got them injuries, I've just had a quick look offline there in terms of what we can do. You can only make injury changes up to and including game week 6. So obviously, this is us going into 7 and 8 now. So therefore, no more changes. We've got what we've got. But in terms, if we were to go with a back 3, I mean, for me, I still think Tavernier now should be transitioned into a centre half option. I don't think I've kind of got no major concerns in being in and around things because I do still think he's a goal threat. And his set piece delivery when he is on it is very good. Unfortunately, we haven't seen a lot of that. I think he's got to make sure he's handing the ball over to Mr. Asgard now. But in terms of that, but you kind of back 3 options. You're probably looking at something like Tav, Dijiga, Suter, Fernandez. So it'll be 3 of them. I dare say I'd probably go with Aarons and Magoma as your wing backs. Now that's not me saying because I think Max Aarons has been fantastic, but I've kind of got a bit of a head on utilising while he's there to keep everybody else fresh, because from a defensive mind, he's actually not too bad of a defender. He doesn't offer a lot going forward, but if we're going to be keeping things a wee bit tight, then you kind of go from there. Your midfield 3, again, with scraped of options, you're probably looking at a Raskin, Diamandi and Asgard, and then you're going to play somebody high, one of your strikers high, with I'll probably go with Mighty more off them. Oh, I'm starting to echo. Sound problems.
Sven.
So just go. If you just go on mute, guys, if you're not talking, and then we'll process elimination. So yeah, that I'd probably go with more off one of the front men, and then you've got options with like the likes of Gassama, Ant-Man, who might come back into the squad if he doesn't actually leave, and then kind of go from there. So yeah, if we do go with the 3-5-2, then that's the type of thing I think we could go for. I think with the 3-5-2 as well, I'm probably doing it a misservice, but certain players probably haven't got to work as hard, given the fact that it will be a lot more compact. So again, you just try and pick teams off, and then as the game goes on, you can then bring fresh legs on and bring pace on the wings if you need to, and then you try and stretch the game a little bit later on. But again, whatever the manager decides to go with, I'm fully aboard, because he hasn't got too much wrong since he's come in, has he? So yeah, we'll leave him to it, but we'll certainly give our opinions if nothing else.
No, I completely agree. It's a tricky one because, like you said, if we're going into the game and you're going to sit tight with the back five, then ultimately you're in a position where the game's going to be very stagnant. It's going to be difficult to watch probably from an entertainment point of view. But ultimately, if you're looking at resting players and you're trying to keep it compact, the most of the running will be done by those wing backs who are going to have to take a lot of legs and bombing up and down. Now, we're in a fortunate position where we've got Max Aarons and Jayden Magoma who are youthful and should be able to get up and down the park with relative ease. I mean, bearing in mind that Jayden Magoma is going to have played a lot of minutes since his time at Rangers, probably the best thing that's ever going to have happened to him in his career going forward is how much game time he's actually received at Rangers. So that's a positive. But it would be nice to see Tour Rommens being brought into the team. I know that he had came with a bit of a knock, but with regards to obviously playing in the league and stuff, it doesn't look like that's likely to happen until at least February. So if we can play in a formation that's going to maybe take a bit of pressure off these younger players coming in, then maybe it would be that would have been an ideal game for Connor Barron, because that would have then allowed, if Jayden Magoma didn't want to go the full stretch, that Connor Barron could have peeled off and maybe take a bit of the left wing off him and did some of the legs for him. But I think the one thing that we have up our sleeve just now is these set pieces. And if we can just sit tight and try and get up the park on the counter attacks and feed the ball forward with a bit of direct play and cause a bit of damage in the box, that even if it doesn't pay off as a goal, we always know we've got a corner. Tommy, I'm going to come to you with that. Just on that point, that's another couple of goals that were scored against Annan Athletic with the main man, the set piece coach, sitting rubbing his hands, knowing what he's produced. How big of a difference do you feel that this set piece coach has made to the squad? Because it was turgid to sit and watch us win these games by a goal and scrape them, but now we're in a position where you feel quite excited going into whether or not it be a corner or a free kick. But do you think that could be the cutting edge for us to go on and have a good title challenge?
I think you've got to give Man credit for creating a set piece that allowed Rothwell to cross a ball into Dill to header it into the net, and I never thought I'd see the day. So you've got to give him his credit for that. And I suppose that they've touched on this really in the Premier League, really about kind of Sky Sports have touched on this a lot, and kind of like how football's becoming that again, really. But looking back into set pieces, long throws, free kicks into the box. Obviously, Arsenal are a team that get a lot of joy out of it. It's good to see us doing it, because for so long when we got a corner, it just wasn't even like, oh yeah, let's go. Like it just nothing ever came from it. Tav would go out, barely make it past the front man, and then they would clear it. We would very rarely create chances from corners or free kicks in that scenario. So it does help when you've got Fernandez and his height really as well. That obviously is a big bonus. It could be a big thing for us. Like I say, we are really benefiting from it. My only concern now, when I'm looking at the league table and I'm thinking we're 22 league games in, our top goal scorer has 5 goals, and that's our right back. So that for me is a bit concerning. You've got Chermiti that's on 4. I think Miovski's on 4. Asgard's on 4. Looking at that, I'm kind of thinking there's not enough goals there. You know, we do need to be scoring more in open play as well. But in saying that, we scored 3 from open play at Parkhead, so if we can find a good balance between scoring goals from set pieces, and Danny Rule touched on it after the Aberdeen game. Me and Ian were in his presser, and he was saying it's good to have different ways of scoring a goal. But my concern would be that our top goal scorer after 22 league games is on 5. I feel like we should have a striker that's double digits at least there, you know, and that's probably the thing that's a bit concerning. You look at like Danilo, like I think Annan was a perfect chance for Danilo to say, I'm a player, like I'm good, like look at me, like, and he was awful, like so. I think like in an ideal world, Danilo would leave this window and we would get another striker in, and a striker that can score goals. Really, to be honest, I've liked Chermiti really, but it's more like his hold up play, and I don't really think he's going to be the guy that's going to get 12, 13, 14 goals a season. Might be wrong on that, but I don't know. So I would like to see that. But yeah, it's good. It's good to have different ways of scoring goals. If I just hope we don't become too reliant on it, and it's just something that we can add into our game rather than kind of being dependent on it, you know.
I'll stick with you, Tommy, with that point then that you've made about some of the players that you would like to see. I just realised there that when I was asking JB about what he thought in terms of what he wanted coming in, I didn't really give you the opportunity to say how you were feeling there. So how are you with? I obviously asked you how you felt about the squad and how they might pose a title challenge, but what would you like to see? You've just mentioned there you'd like to see a striker who can get double figures, and I think we would all snap your hand off at that. But is there anywhere else that you would see fit to bolster in terms of areas of the park that were maybe a wee bit short?
Yeah, well, as JB touched on, I agree with him. Like, obviously, in saying the striker, I think like Danilo doesn't even really need to go out for that to happen. If you think of the year that we won the league, we had Morelos, Roof, we had Cedric Eaton, and we had Defoe. So we had four strikers that year as well that were all reliable strikers that could come on and do their bit. So if we could get another striker in, I think that would be great. Sterling, depending on how his fitness is, what we're thinking about him. Obviously, some allegations about his driving as well. I don't know what's going to happen with him. Are we maybe a right back short? Because I don't really like the thought of Max Aarons or Tav really kind of having that position tied down to them. So in an ideal world, maybe a right back. I think we're still short of a six as well. I don't think Chukwuani is a six, is he? Is he more than eight? I think Danny Rule was saying, or did I read that? I don't think he is a six, is he?
I think he said he was a six. I think the plan would be that he played as a six in Danny Rill's formation that he tends to play. He likes to play with two sixes and an eight.
Right.
Everybody seems to suggest it's a 10, but his preferred is the two sixes and an eight.
Yeah.
When we're playing the 2-3-1, obviously, then that would become the 10, and that's
Yep.
been kind of taken by Asgard and Mikey Moore and other players. But I think what Chukwuani would do would sit as a six and allow Raskin to go and just do that. That's. I mean, obviously, we've only seen 20 minutes of the boy, but I think that's where he's looking to sit, just in that pocket, just in the middle of the park.
I think we're still a midfield. I still would rather another midfielder in. Yeah, again, I don't know if that would happen. I think we're okay there. But if Rothwell goes out, Cameron goes out, you think it's two centre mids out and one in. So fair enough. Rothwell and Cameron didn't really feature that often, so it's maybe not a big issue. Would still like to see us with another centre back in, purely because I'm really not a fan of the Jigga at all. I would really like to see him kind of down lower on the pecking order. I'd like to see Enciala go out on loan to get some minutes for himself, and then another centre back in. If you're thinking about it now, I've said this on a previous pod, we really need to be looking at the defence. It's good that we brought a left back in, and that's our player, it's not a loan. But if you think about next season, we've got six players currently in our defence right now that, as it stands, next year aren't going to be at Rangers. So you've got Makoma, Suter, you've got Tav and Cornelius, and then Max
Aaron's.
Arms as well. So that's something. If we buy a centre back in, I think we need to look towards next season as well, because you don't really want to be going into next season with a brand new back four. Really, to be honest, it's too much of a change for me, really. So it's good to get a left back in already, but I think another centre back, and like I said, a right back, but I don't think a right back will happen. I could see potentially a centre back happening. And I could see a striker happening, but I don't know. But I think they have suggested that we still are active, so I think we can expect at least one more in, and hopefully more.
Yeah, no. From what we've heard, it seems to be that the talk is that he is wanting to strengthen. How that looks, we don't know. Obviously, we've all alluded to this idea that it might result in players having to leave the club in order for new players to come in. That's fans that are saying that. Danny Rule and the club have never came out and said that comment. So we're reading between the lines. I think the fact that you've brought up Tommy is spot on. But we're so weak contractually, I suppose, in the back line, that even when you consider, I think Liam Kelly's contract also runs out in the summer. So if you've got that, you're basically talking about the whole back of the pitch that we're going to have to rebuild. Now, if you're Danny Rule going into this winter transfer window, you've got to have that in mind. And given the fact that we're the priority for me would have definitely been that left back position. Now we've done that.
Yep.
The centre back position becomes a problem because the quantity is there. It's just the quality, and I think that it's very difficult to go in and maybe say to whoever it may be, whether it be Jim Gillespie now, I suppose, but Kavanagh directly, but to go in and ask for funds for further players when you've already got that amount of squad depth there, albeit the squad depth does not contain good quality, but there's enough there. There's enough players there to fill holes. The right back position is going to be, I think you might go down a similar route, JB, to what you were talking about, was buy a player that's maybe not ready just to go in straight away and play, but you might buy someone that is potentially sitting there, can learn off Tav for the next 6 months and then push on. And that for me would be probably where we're at. We're in a position now, JB, where we're looking to the league. Everybody seems to be looking inward and focusing more on what talent we can bring in from the league. Now, there's a couple of names being thrown about: Elijah Just, Mashwanise. Obviously, people have even been talking about players like Gogic. Then the big one was that Kieran Bowie last week, the price tag seemed to come out and say that he was £6.5 million. I don't know if you saw the chance that he missed yesterday, but that's not. I mean, if you take Chermiti's price tag away from him, that's not the finish of a £6.5 million striker. But where's your head at with looking more for the domestic market, JB? Do you think that that's a resource that we've not quite tapped into for a few years now?
Yeah, I think it has. I think having players who know the league, I think it is invaluable. If you go back to any kind of league-winning teams, historically, especially if you go all the way back to Walter Smith's time and stuff, there was always a core of players in there that kind of just knew what it was all about. I know a lot of people hate that phrase, but it's just so true in the fact that it's such a unique place to play football. Given we've said this on a few pods, the amount of different challenges that you have are just create this. Like, you're on a plastic pitch one week, and then you're playing in Ibrox, and then you're going to like the side of a mountain, like when we used to go to Ross County and stuff, and then next thing you're down and you're up at Aberdeen, and you've got I don't know how many thousand in there screaming utter hatred, throwing objects at you, all sorts, going to Easter Road and the challenges that all that brings. So it is definitely a unique environment to play your football. So having a few players in there that I think that could kind of give us a little bit of an option. You might find that we might do 2 or 3 of the type of players out of contract in the summer. So obviously, I think the name Watson's from Kilmarnock's been mentioned. I really like the lad at Motherwell. No doubt, I think he's been linked with the other side of the city as well, whose name's escaped me. Mashwanise. So he's someone that I really like.
He's out of contract this summer.
Yeah, he's got 18 months, and if rumours are to be believed, I think they're looking for the best part of 4 million, I think, for him, which they're well entitled to do. I think if you're Motherwell, you know that you're on course for European football. So they'll be having a right good push for 4th place. Again, if they go on a bit of a mad run, they might be targeting 3rd place behind us and Hearts. So we'll just have to wait and see how kind of it all pans out. But in terms of other players that are catching my eye, there's no one jumping out at me. I really like Lewis Mayo at Kilmarnock. Now, Lewis Mayo isn't somebody that I'm going to build my team around, but he's someone that every time we seem to come up against him, he seems to play really well. I know he's somebody that's been at the club, he'd be familiar, and I think he is one of the ones who actually is out of contract in the summer. He would give us a bit of balance. He can play right back. Again, Haven't heard anything, by the way, on that one. That's just a player that's kind of always kind of caught my eye. And I don't know about yourselves. Whenever a player leaves the club, you just keep an eye on them to see how they're getting on. And especially when they come back to Ibrox, you just hope that they don't score against you. But yeah, I think the Alex Gorgic one I think the ship sailed on that one for me. That was one I was quite keen on probably a few weeks ago. But when I look at the caliber of player that we're getting linked with now, I'd move away from that. I was really impressed with Elliot Watt when he came through, came to Ibrox a few weeks ago. I thought he was really good, and he followed that up with a really good performance against them at home as well last week. So no, we have to keep an eye on what's out there in terms of domestic, because it definitely is a weapon to have up your sleeve. And if we can utilise some of the teams in Scotland, and somebody made a point on one of the pods the other week, I can't remember if it was ours or somewhere else, where we've got to start getting on with teams in Scotland. And again, I appreciate we're kind of hated by everyone, it feels like, but in terms of kind of I'll scratch my back, you scratch yours, I don't think we've been streetwise enough, mainly because of obviously the politics at play. That's one thing the team over the other side of the city have been very good at. They seem to have a lot of the other teams in camp with them. You've only got to look at the carry on with Dundee with spam inboxes, and next thing there's a couple of players going on loan to them, and there's been a number of things over the years where you go, it just kind of doesn't feel right. It doesn't help the fact that you're sending guys like Conor Barron to Aberdeen, anti-banners up against them. Things like that don't really help the situation. But someone made the point on Twitter earlier, seeing that Scott Fry's doing a hell of a job. That even our feeder clubs are scoring goals now after Conor Barron, Cameron's set piece today. So yeah,
I heard they booed him, did they?
He did boo him, did they? I didn't hear that.
But that's what I heard on Twitter. The Aberdeen fans were booing him, apparently.
Really? No, it wouldn't surprise me. They haven't got much else going on, have they? But I think in terms of that, it's the domestic market is one I think we should definitely be keeping an eye on, and yeah, it's going to be an interesting one.
What strikes me is how many players are being linked to us by Motherwell, specifically just Motherwell. That shows you how good a season that they've had. You're talking about Elijah Just, Mashranisi. Obviously, Stephen Welsh has just been recalled back to Celtic with the move that he was going to get a transfer. I mean, they've just got money from Lennon Miller last year, so that's a club that seems to be doing very, very well. Is it just maybe the position that our youth setup hasn't really been taken off in the last few years, that anybody who seems to be doing marginally well enough is being picked off us and going straight down south? Something that Kevin Thelwell was quick to address when he was here by saying that we should be bringing in the youth talent and stuff like that, and then obviously didn't get to see that through. But I think that's a big problem of ours, as well as to address your point, JB, that we aren't maybe best pals with a lot of the teams in the league because we've no real reason to be. Like, there's not many players that they're looking to get off us, whereas this year, Lyle Cameron's will be out on loan. Finlay Curtis could go and potentially save Falkirk from relegation. We are in a much better position, and having that big squad depth, albeit some of them aren't obviously figuring in every starting 11, but they're there or thereabouts. So yeah, you might be right. It might be the time that we kind of patch up these wins that have been existing for years and just try and get back on it. I think there's been a lot of bad blood, especially with some of the teams that are higher up in the table. But your likes of Livingston, your likes of St Mirren and teams like that, if they're not going to play for us just now, why not? I don't see what the problem with that would be. We're just about hitting the hour mark, and I'm realising that we still have to mention the fact that we have our Ludogorets tickets that are up for winning in the competition. So in order to win that, you need to like the post, and you also need to come on here and subscribe to the YouTube channel or anywhere else that you would be listening to your podcasts. Now, in previous, we have done this for all 4 of the last home fixtures that we've had in Europe, and what we just wanted to know was is something like that you would like to see us do again in the future, because it's been a really good way for us to engage with fans and meet fans, even when we're exchanging the tickets and stuff like that, get to a more personal level with the guys. And if we're in the position to do this for next year, we just want to know, maybe in the comments, just whether that was something that brought you to the YouTube channel, because we're always looking to get more people in, but also looking to do things that get us more engagement with the people that are listening. So just let us know, whether it be on Twitter, on TikTok or Instagram or anything else. But that is our final thoughts for today. The competition is live just now on Twitter, so please make sure that you go on and have a look. And
I just confirm here if it's two tickets seated together, yeah.
Yes, 2 tickets seated together, and that will obviously be the last one of the lot, because we will not be progressing any further after that. But no, please keep an eye out on any further competitions that we do, that we could potentially be looking to get other tickets for other games, or if there's anything else that you would like us to do, let us know so that we can sort that out for you all. But yep, just want to say thank you to Tommy and JB for tonight, and also thank you to those that were listening. And we will be back on Tuesday night, I believe, and there will be coverage from Ian and potentially one of us from home, because I don't think me or Tommy are going to be able to make it along to the game. So that could be quite fun.
Yeah.
Sitting watching Ian in the freezing cold while we're in our houses, that might be quite a nice position to be in. But yes, guys, thank you very much for tonight, and I hope you all have a wonderful week. See you later. Good night.